Usually to prepare the live stream, we should be live here. Let me just make sure as I go into Facebook. Hi, everyone, if we're live. Just one sec. I just like to make sure. And then I want to open it up so I can see comments too.
Okay.
Yay, looks like we're live. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to Women's Giving, the 6-week series that I've been hosting for the last week, and it'll go on for until Thanksgiving. I'm really excited. I met Paula recently. We met just a few months ago, and wanted to bring Paula on as one of our featured speakers and really showcase her and hear her story, because I haven't heard her whole story, so I'm really interested to hear it, and then I wanted the group to hear it as well. So here we are. If for people that are just coming in and live, please come in and say hello. Good morning. And as you're listening to the conversation, please feel free to leave some comments and interact as best you can as we're live. For the women that registered for Women's Giving, this is going to be taped for you, and you'll receive the full recording of all 14 speakers at the end of November, at the end of the 6 weeks. So let's get to it. Hopefully everyone had a really wonderful weekend. I had a great weekend here in Ohio. It's beautiful. The fall weather is beautiful. And this is actually really good timing to have Paula on today, because Paula is a trauma and recovery coach. And this morning, our mornings are always different. Sometimes we're feeling like ready to go, and sometimes we're real positive, and sometimes who knows, right? But this morning, my emotions were really, really raw and real. I got a phone call from a young lady this morning who is trying to get sober, and it took me back 20 years to those feelings from 20 years ago that I felt, because she was feeling them right now. She's really, really in a raw emotional state. So I talked with her for a while, and then I, got off the phone, and I just sat in my chair and read my little meditation, and all those feelings, all those emotions just came up, and it was actually beautiful, right? Because there, for the grace of God, I looked at my life years ago. I couldn't even find gratitude, and now I was looking, it was oh my God, I'm so grateful. And then I started to write about it, because that's just how I get my emotions out, is starting to write about it. So, but I wanted to share that with you, because it's right up your alley, right? So I have those emotions coming up this morning too. So I would love to have you introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind. Paula, introduce yourself, who you are, and a little bit about what you do, and then we'll go into interview style, where everyone can hear your story and be really inspired by it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dora, for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to talk to you and to everybody else, and to share what I do, because I feel it's so important that women are able to find a support group of people who will love them where they're at, in whatever part of their journey they find themselves in that moment. So being able to do this with you live for other people to see, if I can help one person, it'll warm my heart. And thank you for starting off and being so vulnerable. Wow, I love when people are willing to be vulnerable like that. I'm an emotional trauma coach for women. That's what I do. That's what I decided this has to be what I do, because I've overcome so much, and I want women to overcome. And I do it for women who are overwhelmed, right? When we're stuck in our trauma, we get overwhelmed in it. And it can bring on a bunch of different types of trauma responses. So for women who are ready to stop that, stop putting themselves last, love who they are, and understand that they are worthy. I think that's something that a lot of women don't do. We don't get that we're worthy of self-love, of taking care of ourselves. We're hardwired to take care of everybody else, but not so much ourselves. We put ourselves last, and you cannot pour from an empty cup. It doesn't work. You know, you can try and nothing's going to come out right. And so you have to fill yourself up first so you can be at your best.
Mhm.
If you choose to help somebody else. And so trauma responses that come out just because of things that we've encountered, you know, we become yes girls, right? Can you help me? Yes, I can.
Mhm.
You do this? Yes, I can. Even though we look at our schedule and we scroll, I don't have time, but I got to help her. I got to help this person do this. I got to help my kids with this, right? We do it. And that's good. Helping people is not a bad thing. But when we lose ourselves in it,
Mhm.
we become people pleasers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. When you say we can't pour from an empty cup, like my motto for years has been, if the mothership goes down, everything goes down.
yeah.
And what does it really mean though to take care of the mothership? And that's where I think we can get really lost, because we don't even really know where to start to take care of the mothership, right? So I'd love to hear how you got to where you are. Like, what's the story? What's the backbone? Who was Paula before, and what led Paula to where she's doing, or what she's doing now? And yeah, I'm a vulnerable girl too, so I'd love to hear it.
Sure, I would love to share. So I was an only child. I was shy. And I was a good girl who followed all the rules. It's just, I guess, how I'm hardwired. But I was shy and I was unsure of myself. I lived in a neighborhood where there weren't a lot of kids, so I grew up around a lot of adults. And so when I went to school, I was shy too. And in junior high, there were 3 girls. And girls in junior high and high school are mean. They are mean. We are mean, or we can be. We have that ability because our hormones are just in flux and doing all kinds of stuff. We're trying to figure out our identity in general. And so these girls were friends with one another, and they found me as somebody that they could bully. And so for 3 years, they mercilessly bullied me, and they made me feel like crap. They made me feel unworthy. They made me feel like I wasn't capable of anything. They made me feel unlovable. I was pretty low from it. They didn't have a name for it then. They have a name for it now. They call it social anxiety disorder. But I developed that from the bullying. And I was already predispositioned to things like depression and anxiety. That's part of my, my DNA. So all of that, and being in puberty, just really sent me spiraling. And so when I made friends when I was in high school, I trusted the guys more than I trusted the girls, right? Because my experience with females was that they were mean and nasty. And so I made friends with them, but I always picked the wrong people who weren't nice to me, because I thought that that's what I deserved. That was in my head, and it was like that. And I really went low. I became not only a people pleaser, but I became a chameleon. I would take on the characteristics of whatever group I was in, because I didn't know who I was, and I was afraid to figure out who it was, because I had been made to feel so absolutely awful about me. And that's not fair. And as you know, they found out that our brains don't finish developing until we're in our late 20s. So everything that we take in imprints. And it imprints really deeply. And once you get it imprinted here, it imprints the rest of your body. And, and you can develop different types of mental illness, with the depression, the anxiety, the social anxiety disorder, things like that. And so I had no identity. And I became anorexic and bulimic, and it was bad. And a couple of my friends who were actually friends in high school saw me in the girls' locker room, and they ran out screaming because all they saw was bones. When I was getting changed, I thought everybody was gone. So I changed after everybody was gone, and they came back in because and I feel like that was definitely God's intervention, having somebody come in. And they went and they did an intervention on me. They were smart enough to go to the school counselor and say, hey, something's up with Paula. Like, she doesn't look good. Like, we could count all of her ribs. It's not good. And we saw marks on her, because I also used to cut myself. And let me just say that people who cut themselves don't want to die. Okay. People who cut themselves do it because it's the endorphins that you get from that helps to relieve the depression and the anxiety. That's what that's about. It's not because, oh, they were trying to commit suicide. No. Most people who self-mutilate are doing it for the endorphins they receive when they're releasing stuff. It's not good. It's bad. Right. But so they saw that. So I ended up in the counselors. And she was great, and I loved her. And she helped me a lot. But then she moved out of state. Her husband got transferred and she moved, and I didn't have her anymore. And the counselor that we had after that, I just didn't connect with. But I was doing a little better, but not great. And then when I was 18, I was sexually assaulted. And that sent me spiraling down again. And I felt dirty and nasty. Dirty, 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 nasty. Like I couldn't scrub it off of me. And that sent me down again. So now I'm to a point, now I don't trust women and I don't trust men. It's like, who do I trust? I loved my parents. My parents were great. My parents were loving and understanding, and I did have that support system. And I am thankful that God put me in the family that he put me in. Because if I didn't have that, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. But I carried that with me throughout my life. I married a wonderful man. Thank God he put him in my life too, because most guys would have run screaming. But he didn't. He stuck around, and we've been married almost 31 years, together for 33 so far. Wow. So he's a great guy. But so fast forward, I got married, I had kids, I was a stay-at-home mom. And I love my family. Oh gosh, I love my family, but I still had no identity, and I still felt horrible about me. And that comes out in different things that you do. When mama's not happy, nobody's happy. And when mama's hurting, everybody's hurting. No matter how much mama puts on the smile and tries to be brave and does everything she can to encourage her kids, they still feel the weight of whatever you're carrying. And then I decided to go to school to become a high school English teacher because my kids were growing up and they needed me less. Let's face it. Kids get to a point, they don't want you around anymore. They just want their friends. So I went to school. I became a high school English teacher, and I loved it. I thrived in that. I thrived with those high schoolers. Oh my gosh, I thought they were the most amazing human beings on the planet. People were like, oh, high schoolers, how? And I'm like, once you get to know these people, they are amazing. And I loved them. And they found that I was a safe place to talk. A lot of my kiddos were from the inner city.
Mhm.
And they dealt with stuff I couldn't even fathom, but they knew that I wouldn't judge them. They knew that I would love them where they were at. They knew if they needed a hug, Mama Collins was there to hug them. If they just needed me to listen, I would listen. If they just needed to rant, I would listen. You know, I did what I could for them. And then in 2019, I was in a very severe car accident. And as a result of this car accident, I received a traumatic brain injury. And here's the irony of it. It affected me so that I can only read for 25 minutes and then my vision's gone for the day. English teacher who can't read for more than 25 minutes a day. Try to read those papers. I mean, I'd be like this at the end of the day, you know, because I couldn't see. Thank God at that point, I knew my curriculum really well, that I could practically teach it in my sleep. And that was helpful because that helped me get through the end of the year. But in 2020, we ended up virtual because the pandemic hit, and that helped my brain a lot. But my husband and I realized that I couldn't go back to teaching. And that was hard to give that up because teacher had become my new identity. I took on a new identity. I still wasn't me. I was still something else. And so here I am now. All of my friends were people that I worked with. And out of sight, out of mind. And it's not their fault because teachers are hard worker, busy individuals that get up early in the morning and they don't really have a life between August and the middle of June, right? I mean, they don't. Because we work really hard.
Mhm.
And so I had no friends. I had no friends. And here I am, I'm like, oh, and I'm like, what am I going to do with myself? Because I can't sit in front of a screen for very long because that affects me and I get headaches from that. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my life now? Like my whole life has changed in a very dramatic way. And I was like, and then I was scrolling on Facebook and one of my friends posted something about healing your inner wounds. And so I'm like, what the heck does that mean? So I was praying and meditating and I'm like, what the heck does it mean to like heal my inner wounds? Like, what is that about? And I thought about it for a long time. And then things just started coming in front of me about healing myself and letting go of everything that I had repressed and shoved down so deep inside of my soul that I'd forgotten it was there, but it was still shaping my life.
Mhm.
We don't realize how much our trauma imprints us.
Mhm.
And so I started searching for all different ways to heal because I knew that like talk therapy for me doesn't work. I tried that route so many times in my life and it didn't work. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I already knew about some energetic healing modalities like Reiki, and I am a Reiki master. So I am able to do that. And I have a gal that I go to when I need Reiki for something intense. And so I have that. And through that, and then I was watching something and they were talking about EFT meridian tapping. So I watched videos on that and I was like, oh, let's try that. So I was experimenting with like so many different things. And all of a sudden, some of the ugly stuff came up that I was repressing. And it was hard to get through it. And I cried. And some days I was so depressed, I didn't want to get out of bed, but I knew that this work was important. And so I just kept trying all different sorts of things to heal myself. And little by little, I started peeling back the layers of the onion, right? And I would heal something and then I would get triggered and I'd be like, I thought I healed that, but it must be a different level. So I went in and I healed again and I kept going and going and going. And then I was like, I'll bet there are a lot of women out there who have the same sort of thing going on from whatever traumas they suffered or losing their identity. They don't know who they are, and they're not living to their full potential. And what if I could help them overcome that? What if this is my real identity, and what if this is my real mission? What if this is my real vocation? I started to get excited, and I was still dealing with a lot of anger from and resentment because of the accident. And a friend of mine helped me reframe that. And she said, Paula, what if the accident healed your brain? And I'm like, come again? What do you mean? I can't read a novel and get into it like I used to anymore. I mean, I could read a novel in less than a day. I could read a novel in 2 hours and tell you what it was about. And she goes, what if it healed you? What if everything else you were doing was preventing you from doing what you were created to be? And I was like, whoa, mind blown. Let me meditate on that for a while. And everything just started to fall into place. And so I started to learn more about life coaching, and I got certified in life coaching. And I was like, all of these beautiful energetic healing modalities, you know, I can do that for people. I can walk them through their emotions, and I can help them release those things. How cool is that? I can help them heal like I healed. And so, yeah, that's how I got to be where I am. And I just keep opening myself up to whatever God wants to put in front of me as something else I can add to what I do. So I have several healing modalities I use. I use meridian tapping. That's actually been proven by science to work. They've used it on people with severe PTSD, like, veterans who come back from war, or, people who have suffered, like human trafficking victims. They've tried this on, and it's worked to help them release stuff and to help them to heal. And I was like, oh, science likes what I like. Very cool. And then I do sound healing, and science has shown that sound and different frequencies of sound help and heal. And I'm like, thank you, science, for validating yet one other thing that I like. There's proof out there. So yeah, I'm just like really excited to find the people who need me and find my tribe. And I have some of the greatest friends I have right now. I mean, my healing brought me to you, Dora, and we started to build this friendship, and that's beautiful, right? Because 2 years ago, we would have never met.
Right.
I was not somebody you would have wanted to have been around, and that's okay. But yeah, our healing can reveal our real tribe and the people that we're supposed to be with, and the people that are going to be there to build us up. Call us out gently when we do something stupid or start going down the wrong path. I don't want people who are going to say, it's okay, Paula. It's okay for you to feel like that. You feel like that as long as you want to. I want people to say, my friends who will say to me, it's okay that you're feeling the feelings, but you know how to get rid of them too. Mm-hmm. And they remind me to, you can wallow for, you get your 5 minutes, Paula, but then you got to snap out of it. And I'm to that point, things will come up, and at one point it would have put me down for a long time. And now I'm like, okay, give myself 5 minutes to feel the feels like you did today. You gave yourself time to feel the feels, and you journaled about it, and that's beautiful. But then you realized that you're more than that, and that you have this ability to help people, and you put it out there, but then you came back.
Mm-hmm. So before I ask my ton of questions, I always take notes as you're talking, and yes. But before I ask questions, I'm super curious about like what's next. Like, what are some of the things that you want to continue to experiment? Because I know there's a lot of modalities out there. Which ones you're really excited about, and then like what's next for, like, what do you really want in 2023? What are some things that you really want to do?
Okay. Yeah. So Saturday, I was just trained in a new healing modality. It's called IET, which is Integrative Energy Therapy. And it works more with releasing a lot of the generational stuff that we have that may not be ours. And a lot of addiction falls into that, is very generational. So it helps us to go deeper, almost like at a cellular DNA level, which is kind of cool. So I just got trained in that, and I'm really excited about that because that's a great add-on that I can use with just about every other healing modality that I have. So yeah, I got my beginner's level, but the woman who trained me, she goes, "Oh my gosh, Paula," she goes, I cannot believe she goes, she told me I had a very unique energy. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? And she goes, no, she goes, you definitely have that maternal nurturing energy. It's very warm and it's very comforting, and it's great for helping people to nurture them and comfort them while they're going through. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. So there's that. I do work one-on-one with people, and I love my one-on-one work. I can do that in person if people are local, or I can do it through Zoom, which is great because a lot of what I do can be done through Zoom with the meridian tapping and even with the sound healing. So there's that. And I love to do that kind of stuff. And it's usually like an hour that people sit with me and we work through things. And I start at whatever is their most urgent need. I don't peel back the layers on the first call because that would be too much for anybody. I start where they're at and we move inward until they get comfortable enough to really go deep. And some people are ready to do that faster than others because we're all different. 2023, I'm very excited about that because I also have another healing modality that I use, which is called Ho'oponopono. A friend of mine is like, can we just call that what does she call it? HFP, Hawaiian Forgiveness Prayer. Can we just call it that? Because she can't say it, and that's fine. It took me a while to do that, but it's a beautiful meditation that Native Samoan Hawaiians still practice weekly in person because they have big family is very, very important to the Samoan Hawaiians. And so when they get together on Sundays, they practice this still, where they sit there and they go through this ceremony in person. But you can do Ho'oponopono without the person in front of you, because let's face it, we all have people in our life we need to forgive, but we don't want to ever come face to face with them again. And that's okay, because during the prayer, we trust that what we are asking forgiveness for or offering forgiveness for, that we're putting it up to the divine, whatever your divine is. Everybody has their own name for it. I call mine God because of my background, but everybody has their own. So we trust that the divine is going to make it right. And so my dream for 2023, once a quarter, is to offer a 3-day forgiveness retreat. I want to do one locally, and then I would like to do the other 3, just travel and do these beautiful healing retreats where women can really go deep. Day 1 would be forgiveness of others. Day 2 would be forgiveness of God or your higher power. And day 3 is always the hardest. That's forgiveness of self.
Yeah.
It's much harder to forgive ourselves than it is to forgive other people.
Yeah.
And so it would be a beautiful, intimate place where we could be vulnerable and we could heal together. So I want to do 4 of those. That's my dream, where I would be able to do that and offer any of my other healing modalities during those 3 days, and maybe even collaborate with somebody else who has, that is very good at a healing modality, and have them offer that as a part of it too. I think that anything that would be beneficial. I want to keep the retreats small. I don't want them to get bigger than 10 women, because then I think that's a disservice to people who are there. But people
I love that dream. I was talking to my friend slash client. Sorry, my things are going on.
That's okay.
My friend slash client, who is also a travel agent, and her name's Trisha. And I was like, we were planning this retreat to Mexico in 2023, and I forgot that I had told her that when I started this whole thing, that I was like, I just want people that this was like when I very first started business coaching. I'm like, I just want people that will want to fly to Mexico with me. And so she reminded me that she's like, there's people that want to fly to Mexico with you. That was your dream, and here it is. So those retreats are going to happen for you in 2023. I can feel it. I know it. So a couple of things that really came up as you were talking, it just kept going on in my brain as you were talking, was just this ability to be like, how do we find the way to be spiritually guided versus emotionally driven? The emotions have always driven my life, but then I didn't want to feel them.
Right.
I do whatever it took to not feel those emotions because they felt so icky.
Right.
And I didn't even know that there was even a concept of being spiritually driven, had no idea. And so I remember when I very first got sober, I was in my early 20s, and my AA sponsor used to make me have feeling nights. Like every Monday night was feeling night. So as you were talking about like feeling and getting in there and allowing yourself to feel, like that's the first step, is like, oh my God, I have to feel like,
Yes.
ugh, I don't even want to feel. Like that was just horrendous, right? But then once I could start to feel, then I could see how I was being so emotionally driven in my
Yes.
life, right? We can't really see that. And then we can finally be spiritually guided. So this like whole process.
It is. It's a huge process, Dora. It really is. And you're right. Feeling the icky feelings, it sucks and it's painful. But if we don't allow ourselves to feel them and really feel them and see, where do I carry them in my body? What part of my body am I carrying this in? What's it causing? Because so many of our feelings that we carry in different areas and in different organs, and it causes disease. It really does. They did a study. I wish I was looking for it because I wanted to be able to send people to it. I like to give people proof. But people who carry a lot of worry and fear, you know where people carry that? In their kidneys. So people who end up with kidney issues, that's because of the worry and the fear. And that, and anger is something we carry in our heart. We really do. And so a lot of people who have anger issues that they have pushed down, that they haven't dealt with, they end up with heart issues. They end up with high blood pressure. They end up with all the different things because they haven't been willing to deal with it. And it also makes people, when you aren't willing to deal with those ickies, it makes you emotionally unavailable for other people.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to sit with it and sit with somebody that you trust. You don't do it alone. Doing it alone only makes you spiral deeper. In the beginning, sitting with those feelings alone only makes you spiral deeper. As you become well, you can sit with them by yourself. Like you were able to do today, and you were able to journal, but you are so far removed from it now, right? Because you've gone through so much transformation. But if you would have tried to sit with those icky feelings back before you became sober, it probably would have made you reach for the bottle, right?
Right. Our coping mechanisms are, like you said, like we only can do what we know. Right. So if we're, whatever that feeling is, we have to figure out how to get rid of it if we haven't processed it, if we don't know how to deal with it. So yeah, absolutely. And that's what we know. Like you grew up like when something hurt you, then you hurt yourself, right?
Yes, I did.
That's what, so when something hurt me or something, I picked up a bottle, right? So we all have these, like, this is how we cope through it. And
right,
it's never ending unless you look at it. And what's so, there's millions and millions of people that don't even know what to look at.
I know they don't, because they don't want to name it. because, you know, they're like, I don't want to name it. And they're like, I'm a strong, confident individual. And I'm like, you are, but I have some friends and I'm like, you've never really dealt with that. And they're like, no, I've dealt with it. I'm like, no, you really haven't dealt with it. Like I can sense it now because I'm on the other side of it.
Mhm.
So I can sense it. And I'm like, you really haven't dealt with that, because every time the phone rings and you see the phone number of whoever it is, you get tense, you get angry. You know, and then it changes how you react to everything else.
Yeah.
Until we are willing, and we can't do this. And I know because I have so many friends who have gone through AA or even, you know, Narcs Anonymous too. Until you're willing to do it for you and for
Mhm.
your healing so that you can learn to love yourself, you won't commit. You
Mhm.
can't say, I'm going to do this for my husband or my kids or for this or for that. It's got to be for you.
Mhm.
It's a nice place to start, to want to get, you know, to get sober or to want to heal so that you're nicer to be around when you're out with other people. But you should want to do it for you,
Mhm.
because you can't really know what your true calling is until you heal.
Mhm.
You will stay stuck where you're at. You'll even tell yourself that you love what you do.
Mhm.
And you may even excel. You may go into overdrive and gain recognition. People who have major trauma need external recognition and validation. And so they will do everything. They become the overachievers.
Mhm.
Overachievers are different than high achievers. Overachievers do it because they have something to prove to themselves and everybody else, so they can receive the outward validation. High achievers do it for themselves in a way that helps build them up
Mm.
and fill them up.
Mm.
And they don't care if Joe and Betty and everybody else notices. They're doing it because they know that what they're doing fulfills them and is making the world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there's a difference between the two. I never realized that there was a difference. And so, yeah, overachieving is a trauma response.
That's so that's huge. I want to ask you a question, especially since you're really leaning into forgiveness and focusing on forgiveness in 2023. What happens when you stay in resentment?
Oh my gosh. Well, you get sick, you get mired deeper into your, you know, if you already deal with depression and anxiety and things like that, you get mired deeper into that. A friend of mine years ago gave me this beautiful visual that we carry unforgiveness and resentment like rocks, and we hold them and we keep adding them into us, right? And so we're carrying it in front of us. Well, when you are carrying all your unforgiveness here in front of you, I can't love you and I can't allow you to love me.
Mhm.
And I really can't love myself because I am so concerned about all these rocks I'm carrying. And when you can't love yourself, you can't realize your potential. And so unforgiveness just eats away at you. And the resentment then causes anger, and it causes more separation from people. And it will drive people away from you, because who wants to be around somebody who's bitter all the time? Nobody. And
Mhm.
we weren't created to be alone.
Mhm.
We weren't created to be that way. We were created to be in community with people. So when you're alone and you're just angered in your bitterness and your resentment and your unforgiveness, it keeps compounding, and it turns you into somebody that you don't even recognize. But because it's a part of you and it's your comfort zone and it's what you know, you stay there, because we stay where we're comfortable, whether it's uncomfortability or good. And so you have to be willing to do that. I mean, I carried that unforgiveness towards those 3 girls and the man who sexually assaulted me. I carried that for years.
Yeah.
And even with the sexual assault, I blamed myself. for that. So it was one more thing, the blame and the shame all on me. It's all Paula's fault, right? And I carried all of that. And when I was able to do forgiveness and offer that up into the divine and let the divine take it and work with it, I was then able to look at these people from a different perspective and say, wow, what was going on in those 3 girls' lives? What had they experienced in their lives at home, even maybe, that made them have to hurt me so they could feel better? And I started to feel sad for them, that they were hurting that badly, because hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the person who assaulted me, the man who did that. What happened in his life that made him so awful that he needed to feel power over a female, a defenseless female like that? What happened, that who made him feel so unempowered? And I was actually able to look at it a different way. And, talking about it at one point, if I talked about it, I would have been talking about it like this.
Yeah.
I would have been ashamed. I would have still been living in shame.
Right.
I'm not living there anymore because it doesn't serve me.
When you are able to forgive, what has been the biggest blessings and results of forgiveness?
Joy, pure, unabounding joy. Even on bad days when I'm not feeling so well, because the weather affects part of my physical injuries from my accident, I still feel joy. Joy is not connected to all the other stuff. Joy is this beautiful gift you receive when you can let the junk go. So you can feel joyful. And it's so funny because I posted a picture on my Facebook page the other day, and somebody said, "You look so much younger and so bright." And I looked at the picture and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do. Like, notice.
Yeah.
They notice this. They notice the change. They don't always know what it is.
Yeah.
They don't know how you got there, but they're like, she's different.
Yeah.
And my husband even said, the man's been with me for 33 years now. He's like, this is the Paula that I always knew was in there. And I got all like teary-eyed. I was like, yeah. And it is. And so there's people notice it. And you put that then out into the world, and you become a light and a beacon for other people. That's the big things. Like, I want women to heal, and I want to help them on that journey so they can go out and they can help other women heal. I don't want them to sit with me and have to keep coming back for years.
Right.
I want them to walk away with tools in their toolbox. So when they get triggered, they're like, Paula taught me that. I can do that. I can give myself a 5-minute pity party, and then I can get to the healing, right? And that's what I want. I want to empower women. I want to empower them. I want them to live fully, whether they're 30 or 70. I want them to live fully. As long as you're breathing, you still have the opportunity. And I want women to know that it's not too late to heal.
And that's why I wanted to bring you on. That the moment you said joy, your entire aura was just filled with it, and you just brought it. You brought it to us. And when we're in our zone, everyone feels it. So how do people work with you? What?
Well, I have a couple ways you can get in touch with me. Obviously you can, message me at Paula Ketchison Collins, because my maiden name is in there. I did that so high school people could find me. So, or I have a private women's only Facebook group called People Pleasers, Overachievers, and Overwhelm. So you can join that group and get support and learn things on there. And then also through my webpage, and that is serenewellness@paula.com. And we can put all those links for people. and on my webpage, you can see everything that I do. I love to talk to people first to make sure we're a good fit.
Mhm.
To work together. So you can do a coffee chat with me where we sit for a half hour and talk about what you would like to heal and if I'm the right person to help guide you on that. Yeah, so that's how you can get in touch with me.
And locally, you do some fun events here and there, right?
Yes. So there's a great group that I'm a part of. It's called Cleveland Women Who Enjoy Life.
Mhm.
And it's just events that are happening. And so I do sound bowl healing.
Mhm.
And I can do those one-on-one. I can do it for couples. I can do it for small groups. I've done them in my house.
Mhm.
I do them on full moons too. The ones on full moons are a lot longer and a lot more involved because I throw in a bunch of other healing modalities into the sound bowl healing as well. So I throw in a little bit of cacao. If you're not familiar, that's the purest form of chocolate you can get. But it's very healing, and they've actually found that that is good for healing us as well, the cacao. So yeah, everything that I do and try to incorporate, I try to make sure that everything is healing and speaking to a different part of us.
Yeah. Well, that I have so many takeaways from this. This was so beautiful. I am sure the audience is going to agree. As mentioned, all of Paula's information we will put in the comments. If you registered, I'll send everything to you as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Paula. Thanks for joining Women's Giving. And to everybody listening, have a really blessed day.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Love you so much.
Sorry, I'm gonna stop it real quickly.